Hey everybody, MaxFewTrades here, and I'm doing something a little bit different than what I would normally do. Unless you've been living under a bridge with a bag on your head, you should be aware of the new Super Smash Bros. Game coming out relatively soon. I have watched quite a few analysis and reaction videos all talking about what they think of things like the new characters, the old ones, items, stages, and so on. After watching so many of them, I came to the realization that my opinions seem to differ from the popular norm, and I think some people might be interested to hear what I have to say about all the things appearing in the new game. I plan on making videos covering all of the information we have as of right now, but to start with, I feel like a great place to start would be my opinions on the 6 currently known newcomers that we will be able to play as. And I will be going in order of when they were revealed to us to make things a little more organized. So, if you're interested in what I have to say, stick around and let's get started. The very first new character shown to us was the villager from the Animal Crossing series. For those not in the know, Animal Crossing is basically a very casual and carefree life simulation game. You run around and talk to people, you decorate your house, you landscape, and for the most part just relax and unwind. That might not have been the most riveting summary of the series, but it's just to help make clear that seeing the player character from those games in a fighting game setting is quite the large tonal shift for him. Although, if I'm being honest, you could say the exact same thing about a large number of Nintendo characters, so in that sense I think he fits right in. I played a ton of Animal Crossing on the GameCube many years ago, and have more casually enjoyed the newer games on the DS and 3DS. And it's really fun to see how the developmental team has managed to put together a very natural fighting style for him. Mostly relying on the various tools and toys you can collect in the games, he fights his opponents with things such as the bug net, fireworks, a slingshot, and even bowling balls. His recovery is a direct reference to the balloon fight game back in the NES days, and his final smash is a unique and nice little nod to the fact that you spend a lot of time giving your hard-earned money to Tom Nook to have him do things for you. Only makes sense that Nook would be willing to help the villager out in a fight as long as he could afford him. The villager, humorously enough, takes something of an everyman kind of archetype in this game. Unlike many of the other characters in the game, he has no experience in combat situations, and his series is not exactly off-the-wall wacky enough to easily see him just start fighting randomly like Mr. Game & Watch did. Villager seems like he will be one of the less complicated newcomers and will likely be fairly easy to play as it appears that he has decent speed, range, and mobility with all of his moves. While not being exactly excellent in any of those fields, he also does not seem to have any obvious weaknesses either, making him a very easy and friendly option for people to play as, which matches the theme of his games quite nicely. With an adorable design, imaginative moveset, and plenty of tricks up his sleeves, the villager looks like he will be an excellent addition to the Smash Bros. Roster that I look forward to playing as. For some reason, some people seem to think he looks kind of creepy, but I don't know. The internet's just weird sometimes. Honestly, I think he just looks neat. Next up is somebody that a lot of people got excited for, me included. Mega Man! It's no secret that just about everybody is happy to see Mega Man in Smash Bros. Actually, scratch that. People are happy to see Mega Man in a video game, period, these days. Weird business practices aside, Mega Man is an awesome addition to the roster, and the amount of detail that went into his moveset is almost mind-blowing. Every single move he uses in his moveset is a specific power that he gets in one of his many games. Not a single move implemented is out of place, and they all look awesome. The Metal Blade, Leaf Shield, Crash Bomber, Hard Knuckle, and I certainly don't need to bring up his final smash. The game makers really went above and beyond to make sure that this was the actual Mega Man, and not just somebody who looked like him. What I think makes Mega Man interesting as a fighter in this game specifically is that he seems to have limited close combat options. Almost all of his best moves, and even his standard A attacks, are all projectiles. He has a few things to fight up close with, but it really seems like people playing Mega Man are gonna have to make sure to keep their distance and strike their enemies from afar. I really like the design they gave Mega Man for this game. He looks just like he did in the NES days, but clearly updated accordingly. I've heard some people say that his face seems a bit stiff, but I think that's because the original Mega Man was actually kind of stiff. If the Mega Man we all knew and loved was really perfect, then he wouldn't have to be remodeled in every single spin-off title he has ever starred in. Plus, his face is still expressive when it needs to be, and I love that after some of the moves, he needs to open up vents in his arms to keep himself from overheating. It's a very small but awesome touch that actually makes the character more realistic, humorously enough. Not sure what there is to say, really. Welcome, Mega Man! We have been waiting for you. And now for the character that literally nobody ever thought would ever get into this game, the Wii Fit Trainer. People seem to have one of two reactions to seeing this lady in the game. They either think she's a waste of a slot that could go to someone better, or they are completely indifferent and pretty much ignore her entirely. So, what do I personally think of her? This is, by far, without a doubt, the single most amazing thing they could have ever done. I have no idea why people don't like her. She looks like a complete blast to play as. Let it be known that I have never played Wii Fit in my entire life, nor do I think I ever will. But whether you've ever played the game or not, the common gamer still knows who she is and where she comes from. Yes, it's a bit silly to have a yoga teacher as a character in a fighting game, but it's no sillier than Mr. Game & Watcher Rob was. Honestly, she makes more sense than either of those guys. Wii Fit was a successful game, and despite the fact that she had no character before this game, people are already making up their own stories and giving her some really awesome personalities. And despite just being a woman in yoga pants, she has a very clear and distinct design that I find to be very aesthetically pleasing. While you can play as the male variant of the trainer, I think I'll play as the lady version more often on the grounds that it's another female character in the game. And I don't care who you are or what you think, you cannot complain about getting a more even ratio of genders in this game. On the gameplay front, all of her attacks and abilities all seem to just be various yoga poses and fitness-related silliness. It's stuff like this that makes me love Smash Bros. All the more. She should not be in this game. A fighting style should never work for a character like this, but it completely does. They put just as much time and effort into making this character as completely awesome as any other character, completely regardless of where she came from. It's that kind of dedication that I really respect with this sort of game, and it shows that they really genuinely care and just want to make the best game they possibly can. Everything about this character, in my opinion at least, is completely awesome, and I can easily see me playing as her quite often. Welcome, Trini. Nobody saw you coming, but I'm very glad you showed up. Rosalina is a very pretty lady. Okay, with that out of the way, I honestly never thought Rosie here would ever get into Smash Bros. And while I don't completely understand how she's gotten so popular with so few appearances in the Mario series, I'd be a complete idiot to not acknowledge the large amount of potential she brings to the Smash Bros. Series. And like I said before, I can never say no to adding another lady to the fighting roster. It really seems like the developers had a real field day coming up with her moveset, and that it's by far the most interesting and diverse of anybody we've seen in the game so far. Rosie does not fight alone, as she can summon an infinite number of Luma children to fight alongside her and can even send them far away from her to attack things while keeping her out of harm's way. With enough time and practice, I can imagine Rosie being a very popular character for people who like to show off their skills in the game. Not to mention her ability to bring items closer to her while also neglecting most projectiles that come at her, and you have yourself a very technical and intriguing moveset that I look forward to exploring once I get the chance to play as her. I always knew she was kinda tall in the Galaxy games, but I was taken aback by just how tall she really is next to everybody else in the game. Given all the tricks she has, I would not be surprised if she had very little resistance to knockback and would be very easy to send flying, which is kind of ironic now that I think about it. At the end of the day, Rosalina looks to be a very classy and elegant lady who I very much look forward to playing as. Alright, no joke. Little Mac was one of the characters I wanted in the game more than any other. Punch-Out on the Wii is one of the best games Nintendo has ever made, and luckily for us, it was popular enough to make Little Mac relevant enough to make it into Smash Bros., being the first character that we know of to get promoted from being an assist trophy in Brawl to a fully fledged playable character. Little Mac looks great. It's clear winning the World Circuit belt was not nearly enough for Little Mac's big aspirations, as he seems all too ready to jump in and fight some of the greatest fighters Nintendo has to offer. Even if Punch-Out Wii did not exist, I would still say that Mac deserves his slot in this game no matter what. He's one of Nintendo's few characters that entire game is focused purely on combat. It just seems like a very obvious decision in retrospect. Being a boxer, Little Mac fights with his fists and that's just about it. But he proves you don't need fancy gadgets or tricks to be a great fighter, as he seems to be one of the strongest characters in the game. As long as Little Mac is firmly rooted to the ground, it's obvious that he is a force to be reckoned with. If his standard punches were not enough, he can charge them up for even more power, and all of his specials do a great job of leaving his foes as a bruised mess on the mat. Not only that, as time passes by, his power meter grows, and when it's fully charged, you are done. Now, one might think that this makes Little Mac far too overpowered, but it's also obvious that Mac is completely hopeless in the air. Not being used to fighting in midair, Mac has a lot of trouble switching up his fight style and is noticeably helpless, and his recovery is almost completely useless. Flaws completely aside, I cannot stress how happy I am to see Mac in the game, and you can bet your belt I will be playing as him first thing launch day. I can't say I ever saw this guy showing up. Greninja is the last form of Froakie, the water-type Pokemon starter from X and Y. And while I personally chose Chespin as my starter in that game, it's impossible to deny that Greninja fits right into this game's cast far better than many Pokemon ever possibly could. Greninja looks like a very interesting character to play as. From what we've seen so far, he seems to rely heavily on mind games and keeping his foes nervous and on their toes. He can use moves like Shadow Sneak and Substitute to confuse and disorient his enemies, and is very clearly quick on his feet and in the air. Unfortunately, we don't have nearly as much information on Greninja as we do the other newcomers, but from what we have seen, he can also toss water ninja stars, use Hydro Pump to fly around, and can even smack people around with his weird tongue scarf thingamabobber. Looks like Yoshi has some friendly competition on his hands on that front. We have not seen much, but what we have seen implies that Greninja will play very much like an actual ninja, and will rely on speed and cunning before pure power. I look forward to further seeing Greninja in action, and I'm sure he will be an awesome addition to the roster. And there you have it, my personal feelings on the 6 known newcomers for the brand new Super Smash Bros. Game. As you can see, unlike a lot of people, I am very happy and excited to see all 6 of these characters make it in, and I very much plan on playing all of them. To my surprise, there are some people out there who say they'll never play a certain character. Not sure how that's possible when every character looks as fun as the ones we have been seeing, and that includes the veterans. But I guess I'm just weird like that. I hope you enjoyed watching the video and hearing my thoughts on the new characters. As soon as a newcomer is announced by Sakurai, I will be more than happy to come back and let you know what I think about them. I plan on talking about everything we have seen so far, so look forward to seeing what I have to say about all of those things at a later time. If there are any specific things you'd like to ask me, please feel free to ask in the comments below. Until next time, everybody, take care of yourselves.